Hello, welcome to Coding with Tom. Today we're going to be creating three animated views, custom views. We'll be using shape and path from SwiftUI, and then we'll be using GeometryEffect to create some animation effects when interacting with these controls. For this one, we'll create a new project. Now our content view will contain our three new views. So we'll have a refresh button, which is the cycle arrows. Then we'll have a toggle on button that will flip. And then we'll have a text field that when we clear the contents, it will shake. And for now, we'll have this hello world. Now let's go in here. So to create our custom views, because we won't be using an image for the arrows, we'll be doing it with shape. So to draw things, in UIKit we have UI Bezier path, and we do that in a custom view. The custom drawing, we do it inside a shape. And the only thing we need to have is the code for the path. So it's a lot like UI Bezier path. Actually, they have similar methods. For this, I prefer a snippet, and let's go through it step by step. But let's use the preview to help with the explanation. So we'll add the cycle arrows, and here you have it now. This view is like this because it has no stroke. So for this, let's add a stroke. Okay, so now with the stroke, you can see it here. Right now I'm just specifying a padding, which is why you're not seeing this arrows being drawn right near the edge. And with that we use to determine the edge, the left edge point of the view, the right edge here, the center point, which is going to be the center of the path, and the arrow padding, which is just how much of the 180 arc is not going to be completed. So you see that the arrow here closes not at 180 but before, just to leave some space between the point of the arrow and the tail of the next one. Now, just like with UI Bezier path, you move to a point, so I'm moving to this edge here, then I'm adding an arc here. This is this arc. Notice that I'm using from radians 0 minus the arrow padding. Then I move to each of these corners of the arrow and I draw a line to the stored arrow point. After that, we just move to the next one and do exactly the same. Now let's add our tap gesture, and we want it so that when we click on this, we get a rotating angle. So let's add a state for this. And for now, let's just add a rotation effect. So if it is animating, it will do a 360-degree rotation. If not, then it'll just go back to 0. Now if you see when I tap, it goes back and it does a rotation. But you'll notice that I have to tap directly on the shape. If I tap on any other place here, I'm not getting the animation. That's because the shape is the only one that's having the gesture add to it. We can improve these by adding a content shape. Now, if we tap on the center, we get this, but now if we tap on any edge, we're getting this. This is because the aspect ratio right now is set to fill. So let's add it to fit. And that should improve the area. So if I tap here, nothing happens, down here, nothing, but near the center, where we are expecting actually the gesture to work, we are getting the desired behavior. Now, when I'm tapping, I want this to be doing an infinite duration. So for that, we just replace this animation with a repeat forever. And the auto reverse needs to be in false. Let's put it in true so you can see what's happening. So notice this is going back after completing the animation. We don't want this to happen. For that, we set the auto reverse to false. And once we do that, this just keeps spinning, spinning, spinning. And how can we stop the animation from animating forever? Now it's tapping. I will tap again, and it goes back. Nothing is animated. We can repeat this. Now, let's also add a cost with this. I added the effect with a predetermined method, the rotation effect. This modifier already exists. Let's create our own modifier so that when this is animating, it will pulsate by increasing and decreasing the scale. For this one, instead of creating a shape, we're going to create a geometry effect. So this is a geometry effect. The requirements to conform to this protocol are you have to have animatable data, and then you have to specify the type of your animatable data, and then you have to perform this effect value method. So this is what SwiftUI uses to animate. You may have seen that with our furniture SwiftUI project, we could interrupt the animation, and that's because SwiftUI is using these values, the percentage, and it's constantly setting them. So with this animatable data, it calls this effect value, and that's how it can undo the animation midway when you interrupt it with the gesture that comes back. I'm adding percentage so that I can actually know compose this like a keyframe animation. So the percentage will be just to make a animation that has multiple steps. So I'm using the percentage just to mark the process of the animation. So the first half of the animation, I'm going to be enlarging the view. And in the second one, I'll be shrinking it. So no, let's add this to our view. Let's try running this. So you saw what happened there. I'm not adding the animation forever yet, but you can see how this is enlarging not as we're expecting. This is because geometry effect, the anchor point is in the origin, it's not in the center, and that cannot be modified. So for that, we need to play with our transform so that the animation is applied right from the center. the transform, I'm first applying a translation. So I'm moving it half the width and half the size. I'm applying the scale. This we transform it into a projection transform, and then we concatenate an anchor point transform. So I'm translating it by half the size, half the width, and then with this new variable that I created, the anchor point transform, I'm undoing that change, but it will preserve the scale. And there we have it. Now we have our animating button. And that's it for our refresh button. Let's go to our flip toggle. Now here what we're gonna do is we have one button that is drawn with images, so no custom drawing there. So here nothing fancy, we're just adding an image. Now let's make this one fill. Now keep in mind this is an image, so the first thing that we need to do is place a resizable modifier. So now we have the resizable modifier. Also, I want this color to change. So we could leave all of these values to be customizable by adding them as variables. I'm not gonna do this for this exercise. Let's try running this. Now let's add two animations for this. For one, we're gonna be flipping this, and then we're gonna be throwing it up like a coin toss. You see how we are flipping here? So for this, we just, again, for the rotation effect, we just specify the angle, and then here we pass the vector. We just wanted to be rotating in X, so we get this flip motion. Had I changed the vector here in Y, for example, this wouldn't have happened. So it does both things. Now, depending on the vector, it changes. Now, let's add a geometry effect for the transform. Again, we're going to be, although there already exists effects that do translation, we need one that, for the first part of the animation, it will be flipping up, and the second part, it will be flipping down. So for that, we'll be using, again, a geometry effect that has the percentage, just like our scale effect. Now keep in mind this is going down because of the translation. For this we just change the value here, and that's it. Here we have our tossing toggle. For our last part, we're going to do a skewable text field. So we will have here is a text field, and when we start writing, an X will appear to clear the text field. If we tap on that, then it's gonna shake. For that shake gesture, we're gonna be using the skew in the transform matrix just to simulate a shaking, and then the text will be deleted. Here we have our text field. Now because it's gonna be rotating, shaking, I'm gonna be adding a border just so we can notice when we apply the skew. Unlike with UI Kit, text field doesn't come in with a default clearing button here. There's no right view. For this, what we need to do actually is add a stack, but this is going to be a C stack. So we're going to be adding the text field. And then on top of that, we're going to be adding our button. Now, our C stack does place the button on top, but we want this aligned to the left. Let's try running this. Okay, our text field wasn't liking the button, so instead of this, we're be adding an image with a tap gesture. And here when we type and press here, the text is deleted. Now, I only, like with the default UI text field, I want this X only to appear when I actually have text. For that, we're going to be embedding all of this H tag in an if. Only when I start writing, it will appear. Now that we have our X here, let's add our shake gesture. For this, again, we're going to be using GeometryEffect. So here what we are doing is just calculating the screw. Again, we are using the percentage just to divide the animation in stages, and we'll be using just the beginning and the end will be the identity, so that the text field goes back to what it was. So here I'm just adding the modifier and then adding an animation to it. And there we have it. We have our shake. It's in the content view. Let's add some padding to the vista. Also add a frame. Oh yeah, this is a problem with the preview. So right now, if I'm tapping, you see that a J is appearing. This is because the keyboard is on top. So let's try running on a real device. And there we have our shake animation. Let's try this on iPad. We have our shake gesture. We can flip. There we have our spinning animation, rotating animation. And that's it for today. Shapes are how we make custom views in SwiftUI, and GeometryEffect is how we can make complex animations. The ones provided by SwiftUI are also very powerful, like the rotation 3D. But for anything complex or trying to replicate the same effect you get with UI view keyframe animations, you will have to be using GeometryEffect for now. Now, before leaving, I wanted to give a shout out to the SwiftUI lab. With the documentation available for SwiftUI, it's kind of difficult doing custom stuff like these animations. This site helped me a lot doing the animations, especially this one, Advanced SwiftUI Animations. The whole series, it's 3 parts, helped me a lot doing this. So definitely, if you want to do custom stuff in Swift, I recommend this website. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you next time. Bye.